Hey, it's Vanessa Vaughn, the founder and chief resilience officer of Asfalis Advisors. And today I want to welcome you to the Crisis Corner Cafe. This is a very candid, informal video where we're just going to talk crisis for the next 5 to 10 minutes. And I really want to focus on something that's happening in the news. The goal is for us as entrepreneurs, business owners, or companies to kind of think through what's happening in the news, and then how can my organization think about what we can do to protect our company or prevent our company from being in those types of situations. So the one we're going to talk about today is WOW Airlines. And again, we're going to start with beginning with the end in mind. So I want to put a picture into your head. Imagine paying $200 to fly overseas and then getting stuck because your airline goes out of business. Or how about this one? I'm about to get married. So imagine taking a honeymoon and 3 weeks before your trip, your flight gets canceled. Well, WOW Airlines, the Icelandic airliner, was heavily in debt and has been seeking financial support for months. A few weeks ago, at their airport, they announced that they were in the final stages of an equity raise with a group of investors. Right around dawn, they communicated that all flights would be canceled until the documentation with all parties were signed and finalized. About 2 to 4 hours later, they delivered on an empty promise. And they announced the end of operations for WOW Air. So as I read about this case online, what I found is that many customers were first alerted on Twitter. So there was no type of communication to them outside of social media. Many passengers purchased their tickets and found themselves on standby without a confirmed seat to get back to America. So I used to work for an airline. So let me tell you what that means. They purchased a ticket online with the assumption that my seat is assigned. They got to the airport and found out that no seat assignment for you. You are on standby with no confirmed seat. Then customers were directed to the company's website. The website led them to a hotline. When they got to the hotline, they were greeted by an automated phone recording. And the only thing that stuck out to me the greatest in one of the articles that I read, and again, I'll post these articles at the bottom of the videos, is that it was just a constant circle of no human interaction. Even at the airports, there was not one employee from WOW Airlines. So not only that, but now over 1,000 people are without a job. And the craziest thing that I read is that the CEO actually wants to relaunch another airline. So the question is, what could have been done beforehand? And I want to focus this conversation on the customers. And always, I'm going to start with the core values, because when all else fails, all you have are who you say you are at the core. So go back to the core. So with that being said, I took a look at their website, and their promise is WOW Air is a low-cost airline committed to providing the cheapest flights across the Atlantic while providing a memorable service all the way. Simply put, there's wow in everything that we do. That's their promise. So going back to the question, well, what could have happened beforehand to not put their customers in this situation where they purchase a ticket and they're overseas and they're stuck? For people who are traveling in 2 or 3 weeks before they travel, they find out that their flights are canceled, and then they're forced to go fly on other airlines and purchase their own tickets without an immediate reimbursement. Also thinking about how customers feel when they're trying to call people and talk to someone and there's no human to talk to, not even a person at the airports, at the customer service desks. So what came to my mind is an impact assessment. It's important to get an immediate grasp of the potential things and which can impact you as you think about, well, hey, if I have to close my business, that's a decision businesses have to make, right? Every business goes through ups and downs, really high highs and really low lows. So you have to think about, well, what's my impact assessment? I focus on 5 things: stakeholders, the operations of the business, your reputation, the financial aspects, and the environment. I also think about the scope of that impact, right? So availability. What happens if there's a loss of a service or a product? And at what stage does that truly impact the operation? From a duration standpoint, that's the second area of the scope of impact that we look at. What's the time frame? Do I expect my service or my product to stop within a half a day, 2 days, 3 days, a week, 2 weeks? Depending on what that number is, again, what's the impact to those 5 different areas? And what's the spread? Is it across one department? Is it across multiple departments? Does it impact suppliers and vendors? What's the spread of this impact? And at what point is it going to be a challenge for my company? So again, think about the scope of the impact, availability, the duration, and the spread. And then also those areas, right? Your stakeholders, your business operations, your reputation, the financials, and the environment. Factor those things in before you just make an abrupt decision that we're going to cease the operation. Who are those people that have been depending on you that believed in you? So then the next question is, well, how can they recover? To be honest, guys, I'm stupid. I would have never imagined that an airline can go out of business and then not have the decency to at least pay their customers or to reimburse them ahead of time. But I would say this. I think the CEO should not create another airline company. And I know that's my personal opinion. Again, I just don't think that that's a wise thing to do right now. Why? Because in the middle of this crisis, are they really handling themselves in the best possible way? Would you, as an investor, would you invest in that business after you've read the headlines and seen how they've managed the first one? It's a question only that you can decide. So going back to the question, how can they recover? Well, I would definitely say ensure that the customers are reimbursed for their losses. People took trips. People had to pay additional fees. Some people bought multiple airline tickets. Some people are stuck without work. They have not been able to get a paycheck. Some people have incurred costs for lodging and for food and water. Think about all of those things that their customers, as well as vendors and suppliers and their employees, have encountered. And factor that into your equation on what will come of this and then how you will better support those people who believed in you. And lastly, I would say, how can they recover? Enable people to actually communicate and not robots. So if you're a business that may be going out of business or going through some tough challenges and you're trying to think through, well, how do I work my way through this situation? Do an impact assessment and think about your customers. Because if you decide to go have another job or to start another business, you want people to remember you for the great things that you did to support them even when it's tough. And I get it. I'm an entrepreneur. I know it. But we have to think about our customers and those vendors and those suppliers who support our business every day. So I turn the question over to you. What do you think? Were you a WOW Airlines customer? Were you a vendor or a supplier? How do you think they handled it? What would you have done if it were you? What do you think they can do right now to recover that? Or are you a business owner or a company or an entrepreneur that's going through tough times? How have you been able to manage it? Again, thank you so much for tuning in to the Crisis Corner Cafe. I am Vanessa Vaughn, the founder and Chief Resilience Officer. Have a good day.